Hello, you're still up?
Yep. Okay. So I'll give you the conference report. I don't have to do these often in person, but beginning of this month, actually, the 1st through the 4th, I went out to Cleveland to go to Overdrive biannual conference on, obviously, their product. It's a vendor conference. Go there and find out what's going on with our ebook vendor and what's in the planning processes. 1 second, let me bring up my notes. Okay. We heard a little bit about the Overdrive read format out there, which is the one that allows you to read it within your browser. Something I found out is you can actually download the Overdrive read format and read it on your device, although I'm not entirely sure how well that works on things like iPads. It is designed to be their simple click-and-go format that they started working on when they acquired their Australian offices. They also talked about the Big Read program. This is the one we had back in the spring with the 4 corners of the sky, or of the wind, whichever. But they're talking about how successful that was. Although, despite they're talking about the success of it, of all the librarians in the room, only about half of them were aware that the program had existed. They are currently planning one for this fall for a younger audience. And actually, I just got notification today that they have released the title. It is going to be Nancy Clancy Super Sleuth, and there's going to be a simultaneous Big Read with the MP3 version of the book. So I've gone ahead and said that we'd be interested in participating in this again, since it is a free opportunity and allows some unlimited simultaneous downloads of the title during this period. I think this time we actually already have the book in the catalog, just so it's the last ride to buy it after. Okay.
Did they talk about how they picked the title?
No, they actually didn't say much about it.
Okay.
Let me check where I am. They did talk a bit about their user support tickets that they receive at Overdrive. They talked about, even though the number of them has gone up, the percentage has gone down, considering the percentage of use for the number of people using the Overdrive collection. Although I take this with a grain of salt, as they have shifted more of it to librarians to respond to the answers before they are sent to Overdrive. There was a bit of talk about promotion. One interesting thing I was hearing about was there was a library that won an award, and one of their big ways to promote their whole ebook collection was to have big posters and all that at the bus stops around town and a few at the airport. Advertising people, if you need an ebook to read right now, it's just to log onto the Wi-Fi or use your 3G and download one from the library. I was like, yay, that's awesome. We don't have much mass transit in Minnesota.
First they have to have a fine-free card.
Yeah. Yeah. And a card to begin with.
Yeah.
So, they talked a little bit about the Overdrive Media Station. If any of you have been to any of the major conferences lately, this is basically just their version of the 3M cloud station that they have. So it's just independent standing station where you get to swipe through and it looks like Netflix. You can see all the ebooks that are available at the library. And you can plug in your device and download them if you have like an e-ink reader. Or you can just check them out from there and download it on your device later. There was a publisher and author roundtable. Honestly, not much came from the publishers. It was all just politics. They didn't say anything of importance. Oh, did I put the name of the author down? I'd have to look it up, but she was hilarious. And then the final session of the second day was a town hall meeting where they got together all the Overdrive customers, and we about groups of about 6 or 7, and we talked to an Overdrive staff member. Town hall meeting on basically how we feel about Overdrive and any issues we are having with it. My group, I chose the group for collection development, so that's one of the main things I do. My group got separated, so I ended up with staff librarians. But I did get some of our concerns in there, particularly how we can't really do anything with our schools, some of the issues with reports, how it's become more difficult to track things like grant purchased materials, and their communication in particular, both not only for the customer interface but for the staff interface. my person was actually their head of PR, so he was assuring me, yes, we're trying to be better about getting information out sooner for you, rather than just springing the update and a day later going, okay, here's what happened in the update.
Just been their practice.
Yes. So if you haven't seen it, I believe next week is when 3.0 of the Overdrive app comes out. It's going to be a little bit more graphic for the bookshelf. Instead of just like the blank lines with the title and a small picture of the cover, it's going to be like a big picture of the cover. So it's going to be like Netflix. And there's going to be built-in support by swiping over from the side. There are a few other minor features. Those are the big ones I thought were important. And then, well, there was also a little Family Feud game that they did in the morning. Kim Edson actually ended up playing. Quite amusing. And of course, they did the whole, like, what were the top 5 searching ebooks in 2012? In 2013 so far. 50 Shades of Grey, 50 Shades of Freed, 50 Shades Darker.
And for those of you who might not know, Kim Edson is at Rochester Public Library.
Yeah, she's my counterpart over there when it comes to the ebook collections. The final event, of course, was the Crystal Ball Report by the Overdrive President, Steve Potash. There are some things in there that were interesting. One of the things he's talking about is how they've been expanding to schools. That seems to be their primary push right now, although it's, like I said, still not working the way we want them to work with our schools. It's still a separate approach. But he has talked about how this is causing publishers to think more about their lending models and all that. He's predicting there's going to be a greater selection, I suppose, of lending models in the future. I'm honestly not sure how I feel about that because it's complicated enough having the Macmillan, the Pottermore, the HarperCollins models out there already in addition to the regular ones, and then the Random House 3.5 times for the first year until it drops down to negligible price the second year. One of the other things they're talking about in the future is looking into how they're going to implement new interface to deal with COPA for the Child Online Privacy Protection Act and for the identification of minors, since while it isn't necessarily targeted for minors, parts of it are, so it falls under the need to deal with that. Okay. They are also working on a bunch of things that would be opt-in for the patrons, things that you would forsake a little bit of your privacy on, be a patron-by-patron thing. I don't think we'd have any choice on it, but it would be such services as synchronizing between devices. You need to create a login with them so your devices are registered with it, so you can go to the same page when you pick up your iPhone instead of your iPad or whatever. At this point, they're not really looking to go into our databases for much more information. They just want to opt in stuff from the patrons. Again, something I'm not sure how I feel about. Okay, so that covers most things. Aside from school patrons, they're trying to push out to the 90% of library card holders who don't use ebooks, which statistically that's about right for our region. We're at about 10% use the ebook collection. And
say that again?
Well, as of the end of last year, we were about 10% of our patron database are registered to have ebooks. Okay, do you have any questions, anything I might be able to answer from this conference?
It isn't a question for you, but Glynis, when you were talking about that app, she watched the webinar on it yesterday, and she really thought, I mean, she liked it, and she was excited about what she saw on there. So we're happy that this is coming. The only question we have is about all the different devices and how it's going to look on the different devices.
Yeah, we'll find out as we go along, as we always do.
Amazon does that now. Because if you buy an Amazon book on the Kindle, then for $3 or $4 you can buy the audio. And I can, when I finish reading the book there, then I can pick up my iPod and it's right where I dropped off reading. So my first can go on. Yeah, cool. Wow. So it's really, yeah, I have Audible anyway because I do so many audiobooks. But with this little device, it's great because now Amazon owns Audible. So they offer a lot of the different things. And as long as you hook them together, oh, it's right.
Okay.
Okay. Tyler, there was a couple months ago, some of the publishers will now sell to non-consortium. Did they talk about that at all?
No, they didn't. Nor were there any mentions of any changes to the Advantage program. I know. I was kind of expecting something to come out of that, but they just glossed over it.
Okay. Because they were allowed to buy some ebooks they hadn't been able to purchase before from those special few particular publishers.
How does this 10% compare to what we pay for books overall for the process? Does it mean come close to just a rough idea?
In terms of circulation, at the end of last year when I ran these numbers, our ebook collection is about 0.5% of the size of our active collection, being any physical books circulated in the last 3 years. And for size of the collection, and accounts for about 2% of the circulation for the region. So 4 times that. As for patron usage, I don't have an exact number on that.
Yeah.
Just curious as far as what you're paying, to get the service. Is it really?
I don't know. We can do some additional work.
No, just.
Well, no, but that might be one of those interesting things because we know how much we're paying.
Yeah.
And we know how many people we have.
Unless something's changed, it's very limited as far as what you're getting.
Yeah, there's still only. Yeah, there's still only a 1.5 million titles available or so, as opposed to.
Do we have numbers on the amount our libraries send us physical collections? Is that in the annual report?
We have, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, then I can do it.
Okay. Anything on Digital Palooza? Tyler has all of this written up. He did a great job of putting summaries out on the SELCO librarian. So. Horizon upgrade.
Okay. Now, we have a Horizon upgrade coming up. This is completely separate from everything we've talked about with Enterprise, because Enterprise is a different product, so it has its own schedule of upgrades. So, switch gears now. Now we're just talking about Horizon. The upgrade is Service Pack 1 for version 7.5.2, which is the version we're on right now. Cersei Dynix's new strategy they implemented about a year ago is instead of trying to do 1 or 2 big upgrades per year, they're trying to do 3 or 4 smaller ones that they refer to as service packs, which is the direction that the general tech industry has been going in. The theory is that such upgrades will be smaller and easier to handle and will allow the company to be a little more nimble when it comes to bug fixes, putting in new enhancement requests, and things like that. So we have Service Pack 1 coming up. The Service Pack upgrade itself is not terribly interesting. It's mostly bug fixes. There's no marquee new functionality coming out with it. It's just mostly a lot of bug fixes and a few things like that. What's more interesting about this upgrade is the gyrations we are having to go through to get it scheduled. So I'll just take you back on a little history here. Up until about a year and a half ago, we performed most Horizon upgrades ourselves. We would get the files, the disks from them, and we would perform the upgrades. We would schedule it with them so that they could have tech people standing by, because typically we'd be doing it on a Saturday night, and everything worked fine. About a year ago, we did a major upgrade. It was an entirely new version of the software, and at the same time, we were changing database platforms. They had stopped supporting the old Sybase database, and so we were moving to Microsoft SQL, and we were moving to virtual servers at the same time because they had just started supporting VMware. So this was a huge upgrade, and they did it for us at a certain cost to ourselves. Took a week before all the dust got settled for a lot of the outlying stuff. Web Reporter, for example, it took them a week before they had that working properly. And then the last upgrade after that one, they also did, mostly themselves. They had expressed a preference for doing that. We had a systems manager and an ILS manager who had both been relatively new to their positions, so we were perfectly okay with letting them do that. With this service pack upgrade, we fully expected to go back to our old pattern where we will start doing these upgrades ourselves. Our staff is comfortable with it. We were ready to go. And we were told no, Cersei Dynix needs to do these upgrades. So that was new. And the problem with that, if you've been on this committee for any length of time at all, you know what I'm about to say. Cersei Dynix does not do weekend or evening upgrades. They do their work during business hours. 8 to 5? 8 to 5. Oh, Jesus.
8 to
Mountain
5,
time.
Utah time.
Yeah, Utah time.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this has caused a lot of heartburn over the years for us because downtime really is not as accepted as it used to be. So we asked them to quote for us a project to do this upgrade on a Saturday night, which they did. Came in at about $3,000, which is the same as what we paid for the last upgrade that was done on a Saturday night, despite the fact that that was a big upgrade and this one was simply a service pack, which according to their propaganda is supposed to be a much more minor kind of affair. So we told them that we would pay it to avoid the downtime, but we also asked them some questions. Is this a new policy? This is the first time we've ever been told that we cannot do the upgrade ourselves. So is this something new? Was our first question. And our second question is, if the answer to number one is yes, then what are you proposing to do to help us avoid downtime in the future? Are we just going to keep getting socked for $3,000 every time?
Yeah, times 4 times a year.
Yeah.
That sounds like a really big move.
Yeah, it sounds like something, not so much that you run a tech guy, probably a sales guy came up with this.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. And I have to be honest, I didn't really expect a very firm answer, but we got one.
That's what we want.
Not one we wanted, but it was very firm. The answer came back saying, yes, this is our new policy. We do the upgrades. Okay.
Well, did you mention the different levels of upgrades?
I did. I did.
He's going there.
I did. So I said, all right, what about question number 2? And I gave them the little soapbox speech, which they already know, but I said it anyway, that, you know, the internet, Google 24/7, people don't expect downtime. 10 years ago, downtime was kind of expected.
3 nights, maybe.
Now it's not, so people don't put up with it like they used to. And the answer we got back was, well, we'll cut down the cost of the Saturday upgrade. So we have a revised quote now for $1,000, which is
Okay, that's worth it.
It's going in the right direction. It's not quite what I wanted, which was that, yes, we will start doing those at no additional cost, which is what I was shooting for.
Okay.
I don't know, that sounds nice for me.
It's better. It's much better, and we are going to do that.
Well, I know, but one would be 3.
Right.
So we have agreed to the $1,000. We have asked them to see what they can do about some kind of package that would allow us to maybe pay up front for a year's worth of such upgrades, that maybe some kind of discount. They're looking into that. I'm not getting very optimistic feedback from the sales reps that we deal with, but they are checking on it.
It seems kind of odd that they aren't trying to be customer friendly at all. I mean, we can certainly not be the only.
Well, here's the thing.
What?
Horizon's a legacy system at this point. I mean, they're developing it, unlike a few years ago when they said they weren't going to anymore. They are putting work into it, but they're not selling new customers on it. So the revenue stream that Horizon's generating for that company is pretty much all about support and maintenance at this point.
So what are they selling?
Symphony is their flagship product these days. They are actually, Cersei Dynix was formed when 2 companies merged, Cersei and Dynix. Symphony, what used to be called Unicorn, was the Cersei product. Horizon was the Dynix product, and even though it was touted as a merger of equals, it clearly was not. And for a while, they said that Horizon wasn't going to be developed any further, that they would support it, but that they weren't going to do anything more with development. And when the Horizon customers en masse failed to move to Symphony, or if they did move, they went to other companies, then they backtracked on that. And you know, a lot of you were here for that, and you remember some of those conversations. And they are actively developing it now, but they're certainly not selling it to anyone anymore. If you're a new Cersei Dynix customer, you're getting Symphony.
So Enterprise replaced Aqua browsers. I'm trying to.
Well,
what's
Aqua Browser is
changed
yet
as far-
another company completely. That's a third-party company.
Enterprises?
No, Aqua Browser.
I know, but
But Enterprise is a Search.Next product that works with both platforms, Symphony and Horizon.
yeah, it's basically the interface that makes Aqua Browser go away.
Right.
That's all an Enterprise is.
Right. Yes, it's the patron side
So
catalog.
it's a web server, basically.
It's more like a content. It's more like a content server, I would say.
But it's hitting the SQL database is what it's hitting, pulling its information. It's web-based and delivering it.
Right.
So the Horizon stuff is still the old stuff. Okay.
Check in, check out, pay
Okay.
your fine.
Yeah, Enterprise is the patron
I'm just
side.
trying, I've missed a couple of years of fall
You're right.
I have to say that it's kind of a mistake to use the term enterprise, for example, for my finance director.
Oh my.
Yeah. They have a totally different.
Sure.
See, that's what I was assuming Horizon's big
Yeah.
product,
Yeah,
the
it
overall
really
product.
does. It really does. I think it is a hard thing to describe. Enterprise in other worlds is a level of service or a package.
Right.
Or car.
Yeah.
Or a sci-fi world. Don't pick it up.
And that's fairly.
I like to think of it as enterprise car.
And I'm sure that's just the association they want to make. Yeah. I don't know how they picked that. They had another name for it for a while, and now I'm suddenly drawing a blank on what that was. And then it suddenly became Enterprise.
I'm pretty sure the enterprise broke all the time.
So we do not have this Service Pack 1 upgrade scheduled yet. Now that we've signed the quote for the $1,000 to do the Saturday night upgrade, now it goes to their implementation people who will work with us to schedule a time. It will be a Saturday night. Sometime in the next few months. I don't know exactly when. We'll have that information.
Other companies have done this stuff with the version stuff.
Mhm.
If you miss a version, are they penalizing you for missing the version?
We
Do
haven't
know?
heard a whole lot.
Okay.
On
Because
that. I
some
think-
people take the position, I'm not going to do that. I'll just skip that version and go to number 3. And at the same time, you do 2 versions at once.
Yeah.
I think because these are no longer versions, but service packs, probably.
Well, the thing, you can do the same thing with a service pack.
Yeah, you could.
That's, I don't
That's
know.
going to be.
Has been pretty liberal about this. I know when I was at Kasugi back in the spring, there were people who were still on 751, and we went to 752 a year before that.
And the other thing is that the reason that some of the delay is that they, Janya, Tyler, Donovan, look really carefully at the release notes, talk to our account representative, and find out really what does this mean.
What does it do for us?
What does it do for us? And also trying to identify sometimes what does it break because of the customization that we've got. So we have at times not necessarily done a patch. We've leapfrogged.
Well, I imagine what they're doing is there's hooks in there for Enterprise and this version. So there's some things that are going to be happening that way if you don't stay at a certain level.
Yep.
So if you're not Service Pack 2 when Enterprise 1.1 comes out, then you got all this other game that they play.
That's definitely true. They've got a whole host of products that they're putting out now that work with both Symphony and Horizon.
Okay.
Enterprise is the big one, but their BookMine, which is still kind of up and down, their Facebook thing works with both. And all of those, yes, they do require you to be on certain levels for Horizon in order to work. Now, the fact that they're doing the upgrades themselves now does take a little bit of flexibility away, potentially. If we were doing the upgrades ourselves, then yeah, we could just say, okay, the Service Pack 1 disk came in, let's stick that in the file cabinet someplace, and when Service Pack 2 comes out, we'll do them both at the same time. Now we're relying on them to do these upgrades, and conceivably they could say, well, no, we do one at a time. That has not happened yet, but we haven't asked the question either. So I don't know how that would shake out. Probably, if we're doing this on an evening, on a weekend, there's probably not a huge incentive for us to put off doing the service packs. But we'll know more. This is a fairly new strategy for them. In fact, I think this is our first actual service pack upgrade. Yeah.
How much staff does SELCO have to have available?
We will have probably 2 or 3 people actively working on it with 1 or 2 people at home helping to do the testing. That's what we usually do.
So we have people inside the firewall and people
For both.
outside the firewall.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's my understanding that they do all the upgrades for their Symphony customers. Is that what you said the other day? So
That's the model. That's why they're telling us.
So they're trying to
standardize between their two platforms.
Don't Symphony customers complain?
Evidently not.
I mean, you know, part of the problem is that the majority of Symphony customers are in a SaaS environment.
Yeah. A whole different mindset.
Software as a
Software
service.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think it's a somewhat different customer base type. There's a lot less customization that you can do in what was Unicorn, now Symphony, than in Horizon. So I think it appeals to libraries that have different kinds of needs. There's a lot with APIs you can do with Symphony, but that's just for pulling data out. It's not for actually, in interesting creative ways, but it's not actually customizing how the software works, which has always been Horizon's biggest strength. Or weaknesses, which we'll talk about when we get to the streamlining part of the meeting. So we have a service pack upgrade coming up. We're sort of working on how that's going to happen, but it will be coming out in the next month or so, hopefully.
So, of course, we just found this out last week. The board have passed the budget without the $4,000 in it. I really do believe that this is important enough that that's what contingency is for. I mean, the budget is an outline. It's not a straitjacket for us to. And truly, had $3,000 been the limit, I would have grudgingly, but paid it.
Anyway, yeah.
I would have,
Oh,
because
yeah.
I'm not. We have had enough downtime in the last year for very valid reasons, but it was enough downtime that I never want to have that again. So, you know, I know. And so we even had our service person trying to talk about the fact that maybe they could schedule us for the service upgrade to be executed by their staff in the UK. The problem is that the upgrade or the patch requires 3 different teams to do things in succession, and the UK team only does one of those things, and guess what? And their Australian team only does the same one, and the other 2 tasks that need to be done are only done in Utah.
They're more specialized.
So, you know, it was something I got, okay, so the UK person can work during his or her business day. Our staff can go crazy being up at some ungodly hour of the night, but it'll be okay because you are all asleep. But that didn't work.
So it just amazes me. I mean, like, this isn't just flipping a CD into a drive and just pressing run. I mean, what?
No, there is a lot more to it than that.
Makes it look more complicated.
Yeah.
What do they do?
Well, complexity has to do with the database itself and modifying the database. And because of Horizon's vaunted flexibility and the fact that it is an open SQL database that we can actually reach into and tinker with at will, there's a lot that can go wrong.
Change code.
We go in and change database tables, which is not quite code, but
It's pretty close.
it's pretty close. So there's a lot that can go wrong there. There is a client upgrade that has to be done as well, but that's much more trivial. I shouldn't say it's trivial. It's much simpler because we do that through Citrix, and so we just update the client on our servers, and that's a lot simpler to do. And that we will still be